GPUs have used three very different expansion bus types in the last 30 years. Let's go over them so you don't play yourself when building a retro PC. Starting with AGP, or Accelerated Graphics Port. These are easiest to identify from the overlapping connector pins and then that locking tab at the end that prevents them from shorting out. These were introduced in 1997 and quickly became the standard for high-end graphics cards until about 2008. This example is a NVIDIA Riva TNT2 Vanta. It's from about 1999. These were ideal for their era and are really affordable, but a lot of family computers like Dells and E machines didn't have an AGP bus. However, if you were upgrading your family computer, then you were probably working with PCI, or Peripheral Component Interconnect. These came around way back in 1992, and the last GPU to use this bus was the Zotac NVIDIA GT610 all the way in 2012, which is a mind-boggling lifespan. For reference, that bus came out during the Super Nintendo's lifespan and lasted all the way till after Skyrim came out. These can be identified from the lack of a locking tab and then multiple splits in the bus with really large pins. Word of caution, there were several standards for PCI with different voltages early on, but unless you're building a mid 90s era gaming rig, that shouldn't be an issue. Typically, these are much more expensive than their equivalent AGP cards due to their relative rarity. They also have a slower maximum data speed, but that really didn't come into effect until the very end of their era. Finally, we get to PCI Express. These were first launched in 2004, and by 2013, they were the default interface. So there's several form factors available, but the one you're really worried about for your GPU is X16. I haven't personally seen a PCI Express X1 GPU, but they do exist. So these look really similar to AGP at a glance, but you can spot that the connector split is at the very front of the card. The pins are different too. On AGP, they have a tendency to kind of go over each other, but on PCI, they're really, really narrow and right next to each other. This prevents an issue where if a card isn't perfectly slotted, they could short out. Anyway, there you go. If you're building a retro computer, comment below what bus you're using. Talk to you later. Bye.